Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Okay, in the studio today, I've got a special treat for you. The man, the myth, the legend, my dad. Happy birthday, Dad.
Thank you very much, Callie. I hope to have a perfect day today. This is a good, perfect start.
And if it's not perfect, perfect-ish is good enough too,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So not everybody may know this, but you're actually really good at announcing. So I almost feel like you should announce yourself. I was going to try it, but you do it better. Yeah, clear your throat. Okay. All right. When you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for his 74th birthday, Dave D. Blander. D. Blander.
And the crowd goes wild.
Thank you very much.
And the crowd goes wild. And you think that he just maybe pulled that out of the hat for the podcast, but my dad has been known to announce lots of people in lots of situations, from big arenas to when you're just walking down the hallway. So
Right. Good morning, Callie.
Yeah, and he would do that. He and my mom are both morning people, and when I was a teenager, I was definitely not a morning person. So they'd rip the covers off of me, turn the lights on, sing some crazy songs, and announce that it was morning. And so speaking of some of that craziness,
I don't think I've ever announced myself before, so thank you.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. And I think this is your first podcast.
It is.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a great one to kick off with. And we're going to hear a lot about you and lessons and life. And hopefully you won't tell too many stories about me. Make me look good, Dad. I'll make you look good. You make me look good. But there's so many things that we could cover today. When I think about you, I think, of course, about an extremely successful businessman. We'll talk about that. I think that you've never met a kid you didn't love, and there's never been a kid that didn't love you back. Kind of like the Pied Piper. If you have a baby, even if you think the baby will never go to a stranger, just give them about 2 seconds, and the baby is happy and cooing and cuddling. And because of that, you do have, I think, the moniker of world's best grandpa. And just one example of that is you sold your really cool car and you drive around in a soccer mom minivan just so that you can take my kids everywhere and their friends too.
Not a problem.
And when one minivan gets old, you buy another minivan, and there he goes off in the minivan. He picks up my groceries on the way home with the kids in the car. So definitely great grandpa.
And soccer mom. I'm a soccer mom.
He's the soccer mom too. And I'm an only child, so we were the best buddies growing up. There was the three of us, you, me, and Mom, and we were best buddies. And there's so much more to you too. You are an otherworldly athlete. You're kind of just a freak of nature, and I say that in a really good way, on the court and on the golf course. As a matter of fact, we have to get to the show because you have somewhere to be, don't you?
I'm going to go play basketball, yes.
Yeah, he's got to go play basketball, so we've got to get this recording done. There's so many things I want you to learn from my dad, and Dad, I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, and it's pretty special for a guy to be on the show. We had Braden as our first official guy. I had Eric, who was on. He and Lisa are stylists, and now I have you on your birthday, 74th birthday.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's a lot that I want to cover with you. There's a lot that we can discuss here. But for those that may have heard a little bit about my mom's story when she was on here, or you know a little bit about our history, you may know that my parents and my life has not been vanilla. It's been pretty colorful. It's taken a lot of twists and turns. And it's definitely not a boring life, Dad, that has led us to here today. So I want to set the stage a little bit. Tell us a few things about Dave DeBlander.
Well, let's see. I wrote a book, and the excuse me. The reason I wrote the book is I wanted my grandchildren to know the importance of God in my life, and so it's a short history of my life. So a short history is I grew up in Canton, Ohio, an athletic family. My dad played professional baseball and AAA baseball, never quite made it to the majors, but he was a workaholic, alcoholic. My brother was an all-state football player, and so I kind of followed in his footsteps. Uh, I realized I was pretty good at basketball, so from seventh grade on, I played 3 to 4 hours every day, 360 days a year. I'd shoot 100 free throws a day, dribble left-handed for a half hour, and got pretty good. I became an all-state basketball player. I broke records for most points scored, and loved basketball, and still do. And it was a huge part of my life. But when I went to college to play, the coach and I did not get along. It was probably mainly my fault, but that was the end of my basketball career as such. And it was during the time of Vietnam, and really basketball was my whole life, although I played a lot of golf too. Um, and so I transferred to a school. I still kept my scholarship, went to school in Berlin, Germany, basically became a hippie. It was crazy times over there in Berlin, and I lived 50 yards away from the wall. I was studying political science, which I still like very much, but became a hippie. Dropped out of school, went back there to live. I was living there, and I just got a premonition that my dad was going to die. And I'd gone over there with $150 in my pocket and a one-way ticket. I was just going to stay. But I got this premonition, and I hitchhiked back to Luxembourg, Icelandic Airlines, which is what all the hippies took. I came back to the States, and my father had a massive heart attack a week after I was back and died. And so I lived with my mom for 10 months after living in Europe by myself, which was pretty interesting. And then decided to head out to California with a friend. And we stopped in Boulder, Colorado, where some friends of mine were that went to the same school I went to in Berlin. And at midnight, I was sleeping on the couch, just got there, and this girl walks in. And I looked at her and I said to myself, there's my wife. And that was Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, 1974. And Kate has been my wife and your girlfriend for a while there. And then we got married, and we were living, there was a commune. That's what she was living in. And so was living there with the other hippies, and then we all moved to Madison, Wisconsin. And then Kate and I started working in a organic bakery, and then I got kicked out of the organic bakery because I wanted to. I thought it should be a real business, and they thought I was a capitalist pig, and so
So
they.
you're saying maybe it was a front for some other things too.
No, that was the next
Oh,
business.
gosh, sorry, I'm getting
Don't
ahead
get
of
ahead.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, at the same time, all this time I was in the commodities business, while I was in Germany, while I was in Ohio, while I was in Madison, Wisconsin. And
we have that in quotations.
right.
Okay.
I've always been in sales.
And you've always been good at sales too.
Well, okay, I'll take that. So we started an organic bakery. They kicked me out. My mother gave me $5,000, and we started our organic bakery, and among other businesses. But it grew, and then we started a restaurant, a natural foods restaurant at little Kalaya. That's Callie's real name. Kalaya would she'd sit in the front window of the store. It was right on State Street in Madison, Wisconsin. The university was at one end, and the state capitol was the other. And we had this crazy natural foods restaurant and bakery, and little Callie would be in there. It was a great restaurant, nothing out of a can or a box. It was fantastic food. Macrobiotics is what it's called, Japanese natural foods. And then we started our bakery, and it was a great bakery. We made over 100 different products, organic whole wheat bread made with raw apple cider, and we had trucks going down to Chicago, and because the health food stores in Madison wouldn't sell my bread because I was a capitalist pig, and they didn't like me. There was like 8 co-ops, and they wouldn't sell the bread because, well, it was interesting because then we were becoming Christians. Kate got saved and became a Christian, and then this is 1980 when Ronald Reagan was running for president, and Jerry Falwell had the moral majority, and I had this natural foods restaurant in hippie land, Madison, Wisconsin. I had Jerry Falwell's picture up, and I would hang my American flag just to get them upset. And they painted a swastika on my store, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the banter and the intrigue. So anyways, we would sell our organic bread in Chicago. And then in 1990, I decided to sell the restaurant and the bakery and moved to Pensacola, Florida to go to Bible school. And so in 1990, Callie was a freshman in high school.
Oh, we weren't going to say ages of how old I was at the time. We're going to edit that out.
Well,
we're going to edit all this out.
She looks amazing for whatever age she is right now. And she went to Pensacola Christian, and I started delivering newspapers, which was a lot of fun. But then I started, actually, I worked for a guy who had a carpet cleaning business. I worked for him for about 3 weeks, got him a lot of business, but then he didn't pay me. And I said, "What would you do if you were me?" He said, "I'd quit." And I said, "Yeah, I quit." So I had a Kirby vacuum cleaner and a shampoo attachment, and I started my carpet cleaning business. And that was 1990. And I'm going to Bible school, and then I graduated, and I was a pastor and evangelist and for a while, and I was doing a lot. I was working from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, 5-6 days a week. Then I had a TV show called Bible Bowl, which was on Saturday night, and Callie was the producer of that. It was a popular show. It was cool. It was like Jeopardy, but with Bible questions. And I had high school students, sometimes even grammar school students on it. And that was Saturday night at 6:30. And then I preached Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It was way too much. And at some point, I just asked God, "What should I do?" And he said, "You're a businessman. You're not a pastor." So I started building what is today Pro Clean Carpet Cleaning. I bought my first truck in 1997. And when I decided that's what I'm supposed to do, and the business has grown to today, it's got 44 employees, 26 trucks, and we do water damage and we remodel homes. And that's my story.
That is your story. And, it's easy to look back now, or I would say, Dad, it's easy for people to look at where you are today as a very successful businessman, as God called you to be, and to imagine that it was sort of this trajectory that just gradually all just went in the right direction, right? Like, one thing just led you to the next thing, and it was all, I don't want to say simple or easy, but, it was just one of those things that just flowed. And I know enough and living in it that success doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I think, there's so many. And in my book, when I have the different episodes in my life, I always say, what was the lesson learned? What was the lesson learned when I was playing basketball? Well, I learned that hard work pays off. And also you work on your weaknesses. Like I would dribble with my left hand a half hour a day because a basketball player's got to be able to go both ways. And if you can't dribble both ways, you're going to be easily guarded. But I realized that hard work pays off, because I did get a college scholarship, and it did teach me that if you work hard, you can be successful, and there's no excuses. Excuses don't work. And also, you have to learn to play under pressure when the pressure's on. And that's what I like. Give me the ball. I want to be the guy to shoot the ball, because I work so hard at it. And maybe I shot the ball a little bit too much too, which is kind of one of my regrets.
Yeah, Dad, what do you say when a shooter's not hitting? What does he do?
Keep shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all along the line, I would learn things. And, going to Bible school was a great thing. 3 hours a night just studying the Bible. And the Bible's, the anchor of our lives, and so important. And one thing I forgot about was when we were hippies too, Kate and I, we lived with the Indians in South Dakota. And that was a crazy summer. It was right after the Pine Ridge insurrection, where FBI agents got shot, and we're living with these AIM Indians. And Henry Crow Dog, the old Indian medicine man, who was a great guy, and he loved us hippies, because most of the Indians were alcoholics, and they were big city thugs that they just wanted to be violent. But us hippies, we were searching. And I put in my book one of the things that Henry Crow Dog said, that, oh, you white people, you misinterpreted what we call the Great Spirit. He said, we don't call it the Great Spirit. We call it the Great Mystery. And I wish he was alive now. It's many years ago. And his son, Leonard Crow Dog, and the Crow Dogs have a long history back into the 1890s. And how I could tell him, well, the great mystery is Christ in us, the hope revealed. And so just, what did I learn from being with the Indians? And I learned a lot about how poor they were, and how sad it was that their lifestyles and stuff. But we would do vision quest, where you'd go out and you'd be in a hole for 3 days with no water, no food, nothing. And it was pretty interesting stuff. So, but everywhere along the line, and I would say the whole time I was always searching. I always, my whole life, and to this day, what should I be doing? What, I don't like sitting around just, it's funny with my wife. I asked Kate, do you think like this? Like, I always think like I should be doing something. And Kate said, no, I'm just satisfied just going for a walk.
That's where I get it from. Get it from you.
Sorry.
Why am I having to do stuff all the time? I get that. No, I can't stop growing. I can't stop learning. I can't. Yeah.
Well, Kate never stops growing and learning too. She's really good at it. She is. So much of I've learned from her. But that, you only have one life to lead and live. And, what is important. And fortunately, becoming a Christian and knowing that really the importance is, I think Christianity can be defined in one word. William Booth, who was the founder of the Salvation Army, when he was dying, he sent a telegram to all his followers, and it was one word, and it was others. Others. And Rick Warren, in his book Purpose Driven Life, which I used to teach at the jail, I taught it for about 4 years. So I've gone through it 18 times, and it's a great book. But the first sentence is everything. It says, it's not about you. It's not about you. And I've certainly lived a lot of my life where it's about me, and that doesn't really work very well. But it's about others and what you do for others. And that's why Christianity is so great, because what did Jesus ever do for himself? It's all about others.
I was just watching a message And she said the biggest I think trick that the enemy can do is to just change that part of the scripture where it says love the Lord your God with all your heart, right? And then love your neighbor as yourself. And the biggest trick that the enemy can do, she said, was that the world says and the enemy wants us to love ourselves than others. So it's just to replace it, right? That we should love ourselves and we should love other people. And that sounds great and that's good, but that's not what God says. We're to love him and then we're to love others. And we don't even come into play in that.
Yeah, definitely. We love ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
we do things for ourselves, but when we do it for others, we're happier. It's pretty cool. Christianity is pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good line. We'll put that in the show. Christianity is pretty neat.
Oh, I ended my book. I have a lot of quotes. I have 250 quotes in my book. I have really 1,000, but I like the last quote in my book, and that's for you older folks that are listening. I don't know, man, but without Jesus, getting old sucks, and so just remember that.
I would say without him being young, yeah, the whole thing. Well, and speaking of that, there are let's kind of talk just for a little bit about the entrepreneurial part that we've gone to, and of course without Jesus, all of it sucks. But sometimes there are highs and lows, and you've seen them. And you've also lived watching my mom build her business, watching me build my business. There's emotional times, there's scary times, there's times when things are not going well, there's times when you've got so much momentum, you're unstoppable. How do you, over all these decades, watching yourself grow a company and me and my mom, how do you handle that part of being an entrepreneur and having your own business?
When you say that, it reminds me of, I asked about 60 Mary Kay national sales directors to tell me in one word what it takes to be a success. And the number one word was persistence. But the word that, for me, that describes a successful entrepreneur, and certainly someone like you, the number one sales director in Mary Kay, and your mother, national sales director, is determined. You are determined. You were determined to be number one. Your mother was determined to be a national sales director. And I see that the difference between the successful ones and the unsuccessful. Determined, nothing was going to stop you. Nothing was going to stop your mother. Nothing. And whether it was illness, sickness, relationships, whatever happened. And I saw that in all the other national sales directors. Nothing, you were determined to reach your goal. And other people, just this happened and that happened, and I just an excuse, and now I can quit. I wasn't meant to do this or whatever. But determination is huge. Another, if you ask me about what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, I thought, and I did coach for a while, and I thought about, I could coach now if I wanted to, but if I did, I think I could only coach Christian business people, because God is such an essential part of how I see running a business. I have my quiet time in the morning. I have to have this quiet time in the morning. I have to be in the Word of God. I have to have God give me ideas and visions. And to be in business, you have to be a visionary. Jack Welch said you need to be able to see around the corner. For instance, I started my business 35 years ago as a carpet cleaning business. At that time, 80% of homes had carpets. Now 20% of homes had carpets. If I didn't change, if I didn't adapt, I never would have made it. But I never would have made it without God too. And when I say that, I give the example of, now my business is 80% of the profit is water damage restoration. And how did I get into that? Well, just like how did I get into carpet cleaning? I didn't grow up thinking, "Boy, I want to be a carpet cleaner when I grow up." It just happened. Same thing. How did I get into water damage? Well, I was cleaning carpets with this little portable machine, which I did for 7 years, by the way. People think, well, it's just look at your business now. In 7 years, I cleaned carpets with a little portable, like ruined my back. I would carry that up 3 flights of stairs, put buckets of water in it, put it in my truck, 8 hours a day. My back was about ruined. But anyways, I was cleaning this 30,000 square foot office building. I didn't do all 30,000 at the same time, but anyways, Hurricane Danny hit, and the people I was working for said, "Hey, go out to that office building. It's flooded." So I go out there, and I have a key, and I open the door, and there's 6 inches of water in 30,000 square feet, and I have this little portable machine that if I sucked the water out with this portable machine, it probably would take me
You
about
still would be
3 years.
you'd still be there doing it.
Minimum, yes. And so I'm looking at this like a calf looking at a new gate, and I'm a teary-eyed guy. If you're watching this, sorry, tears come to my eyes. I'm standing there, and by the way, that time I had one of the first cell phones ever. I would clean my carpets with a cell phone. It weighed 3 pounds, and I had a luggage strap strapped around. So if a call came in, I'd answer while I'm cleaning the carpets. And people thought I'd be at the beach, I'd have it with me. People, man, that guy must be a rich doctor because look at this cell phone he has. It was $700 a month.
That's crazy.
700 for one phone.
Yeah.
700 a month. So
Right,
anyway,
sometimes you have to invest, right?
Yeah,
As an
that was
entrepreneur, you've got to make some investments.
better than hiring a secretary and having an office and all that. So I'm standing there, and this guy calls me. He's from Orlando, Florida, and he said, "I'm coming up there. I have 3 trucks, and we're coming out to do water damage. Do you need any help?"
You're like, you have no idea.
And that was God.
Yeah.
That was God. That's how I got into the water damage business. So it was like a $300,000 job, and he made most of the money, and he gave me a referral fee. But I watched how he did it. I realized this is the way to go. So my whole life, my whole business has been intertwined with God. I was going to sell my business to my operations manager in 3 days. It was going to happen in 3 days. And one of my workers came up to me and said, "Do you know your operations manager is stealing from you?" And I said, "What?" And he was married to my marketing director. And I was going to sell the business to him. This was 12 years ago. And so I realized I can't sell it to him. And right there, I was also reading Proverbs 27:28, and it says, "Whosoever is a partner with a thief hates his own life." And well, obviously, I'm not going to do that. So I delayed it, and 2 weeks later, they were coming in. They thought they were going to buy the business, and I gave them a letter from my lawyer saying, "You're fired." And that was 12 years ago. And I would have sold, if that guy hadn't have told me, and I would have sold my business to them. What a huge mistake. My business now is 10 times bigger than it was in 2012. But once again, that was God. That was absolutely God doing that. Some of the things too, though, just, God's so important and so wonderful. And he's not my business partner. He's a business owner.
That's good. That's
I turned
good.
control over to him. One time a dear friend of mine, I was talking to him, and he said, and he was a dear, he was a Mary Kay business coach that really helped Kate become a national sales
We've
director.
talked about him on the show before.
Yeah, Bill Cantrell. He's
Yeah.
in my book. I got a chapter in him in my book. He said at one point, "Dave, sounds like you're still in control of your business and not God." And 2 days later, something happened. I met with Callie's husband, Josh, and we made a huge decision about the business, and that was God. But let's see, I can't quite remember now where I was going with this.
Yeah, I think we're just talking about that, there are the ups and downs, but we want to be really what I hear is at the end of the day, we're just surrendered to where God has for us. And but I will say, Dad, one of the things that I've talked about before is, we kind of joke around about, "Ooh, did you get lucky? Like, did you get lucky in that moment when the guy called you and you needed help or whatever?" And we use that term really loosely. Of course, God was in it, but you were also putting yourself in a place that you were open for opportunity. So there is our part too, that we have to be prepared and we have to be open and we have to be ready. It's not just God bailing us out, so to speak, or God, right? Don't you think there's an element of
I love it.
our responsibility
One of
too?
my in my quiet time, I read Charles Spurgeon's daily devotionals, Oswald Chambers' daily devotionals,
Well, you get your tail kicked in the morning, it sounds like. Those
and
aren't ones that are going to pet your head.
no, not at
Yeah.
all. They're so
Nothing
great.
wrong with Jesus calling, but this is not that.
Charles Spurgeon said it so well one morning I was reading. He said, um, uh, "Being with God, living a life with God, is like sailing, in that you have to put the sail up, and God has to provide the wind. Either one of those, it doesn't work. Without the wind, you're not going anywhere. You need God to provide that wind, and if you don't put the sail up, so we're a team, and that's how it works. And part of that, what's up to us? Yes, and I've coached businesses, and really, business is pretty easy. There's really only three parts of a business. There's marketing. You need to have customers. There's operations. You need to have a product, and you need to do it well and satisfy your customers. And you need administration. You need bookkeeping. You need to know your numbers, and it's really that simple. And when I've coached other business people, um, one of the biggest things that business people have trouble with, and that is delegating. They want to hold on to everything they can. And one of the quotes in my book is, "An unguarded strength is a double weakness." And I've seen that in so many people. I can do it all. Well, you can't do it all. You have to delegate. If somebody can do it 80% as good as you can, let them do it. And many times they're much better. My operations manager is much better than I am. My office manager is much better than I am. I like marketing, but you have to delegate. You have to let other people do it. But at the same time, you have to watch everything. Like right now in my business, I only work about maybe 8 to 10 hours a week. But what I do, I look at the numbers, I make sure everything's looking good. And if the numbers aren't looking good, then I step in and I have a conversation with a manager. And then I'm still involved with marketing just because I like marketing. But I've delegated everything. I have 44 employees, and they know that my style is, I give you the responsibility, go for it. And I'm not going to be looking over your shoulder. And I think people really like that. And people really stay with me. Um, I hardly have any turnover, but at the same time, I love paying my people well too. And I always have. And I don't understand why more businesses, they do well. Just pay your people more. These big corporations, or Amazon, I hear like their workers in the warehouses they're just abused. And why is that? You're making so much money. And to me, you'll make more money because you'll have happier people and they'll stay around. But getting back to that delegating, it's funny. I've talked to some business owners, and I said, list me, and this can be for entrepreneurs too that are on their own, like Callie and Mary Kay, and you're doing on your own. I had them list everything you do, and there's things you're doing that you could pay somebody $12 an hour to do that. You shouldn't be doing that. And some of these they'd be taking out the trash, and do the things that you're good at, that where you're gonna, you'd be having to pay somebody $50 an hour or whatever. That's what you do. Delegate these other other things. And also another thing people have such trouble doing is firing people. Um, and you have to fire people. It's good for them. It's good for you. One thing I learned from Quint Studer was you permit what you promote. If you let people come in 5 minutes late, you might as well put a big sign and come in whatever you want. And you have to get rid of the low performers. That was one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned. You have low performers, middle performers, and high performers. If you let the low performers get away with stuff, the middle performers are going to be dragged down, and the high performers will quit because they can't stand seeing them get away with it. There's a cancer. You have to get rid of them. When I learned that, I had three low performers, and Quint said, one will quit, one you'll fire, and one will move up. And I had three. One quit and went to work for the competition. That's a red letter day when your low performer goes to work for the competition. Another I fired, and another moved up and is become fantastic. And so there, God is a big part of the business, but you do have to learn and you have to be a risk taker. Some people just shouldn't be in business. They really shouldn't. And I've had that conversation with people. And also, don't work 24 hours a day. You say, what do you mean 24 hours a day? We're having a conversation with this one guy. So tell me how many hours you work. Well, I'm working here to there. And then I go home and I work. And he said, and when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm dreaming about work. That's not a life. That's not a life. And I've always been able to step back. When Callie was little and just a kid, I worked at that bakery, but I'd start at 4 or 5 in the morning, but I would be home at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock when she was coming home from school. I wanted to spend time with her. Yeah, I could have worked, but I didn't want to. You only need to make so much money. Prioritize your time, and work isn't, when you're first starting a business, yes, you should be obsessed. You can work 24/7 when you're first starting, but after a while, no, set your priorities, and work is not the number one priority. Your family's number one, God's number one, your family's number two. I mean, Mary Kay said it, God first, family second, career third. How many people really do that? But that does work well, and it'll work if you got to be determined to do that. But I think I've done that, and I think it's paid off in my life. So I really haven't overworked. And the Bible says, "Don't overwork to be rich." There's times when, yes, you really work your tail off, but that's not the general rule for your whole life. I think part of that too is I learned when I lived in Europe, and I caught that European lifestyle. Europeans do not live to work. A lot of them, they don't have a fancy house, a fancy car. They live in an apartment. They take public transportation. They work 30. I mean, I think in France it's the law, 32 hours a week. But there's much more to life. There's entertainment. There's culture. There's reading, there's walking, there's family. I think I've always done that. Even when I was a carpet cleaner and I was the whole business, I hired a guy that he would come in I'd take a 2-week vacation, even though I was the only guy, and I would let him have all the money or 50%. I can't remember. And he loved working for me, and he did a great job, so I wouldn't lose customers. And I always prioritized family and home over work, even though in a lot of times I really worked a lot.
Well, I think that's the perfect way to kind of sum this up. And as you were talking, I thought, okay, let's finish our conversation talking about legacy. And I know you're really, really proud to have 2 super cool grandkids. And so I was just going to ask you, all the work that you did invest when you could, and now to be able to enjoy life as you should and as you want to, what is your favorite thing about being a grandpa? to Braden and Maddie?
My favorite thing is I'm so blessed. I get to bring them home from school every day, and I've been doing that since kindergarten.
Which blesses me too, by the way, because they go to school about 35 minutes away. So that's really helpful for the mom.
So it's a 35-minute drive. And then when they were little, it was really fun. And one thing that I learned, don't ask your kids, how was your day? They'll never answer. I said, give me a number between 1 and 10. And then they say, oh, it was a 7. And then Maddie will start talking, and then Braden will say, and she's, I'm not done yet. And
yeah,
so,
that's Maddie.
yeah. And so bringing them home and having great conversations about life. And just like with Callie, I loved every step of the way with Callie, and still even love it now is the big girl and the adult, is to have those conversations with the kids about life is so precious. But I love how they're such wonderful children, and they they love doing right, and they love doing the right thing. And there comes a time in a kid's life where they can go this way or that way, and they're just going the right direction. And it's such a blessing to watch. I love them just prioritizing God in their studies. I mean, they're straight A students that they do so well. And of course, we love their school. So I don't know. I could go on and on there.
I knew you could. That's why I wanted to give you that gift on your birthday, is to just think about how great your grandkids are. And it does take a village, and it takes, a lot of, I think what we've been able to do with them is because of the choices that we've made, of what kind of careers we want to have, so that we do have some flexibility, so that we have been able to be there for a lot of those really important moments as well. Okay, well, before I ask you the last question, is there anything that you want to tell on me about to the audience? Is there anything that they just need to know about me? You don't have to tell on me. You don't have to tell any crazy stories. But now's your chance. If there was ever a time.
Well, I'm not going to tell about that one
time.
time.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me grace in that, by the way.
Uh,
I screwed up really, really bad, but my dad gave me grace.
It was.
That's all I needed.
An anomaly. No, Callie was very obedient, lovely child.
Except for that one time.
She never got a B in her life.
Oh, my word.
From kindergarten through last year in college, straight A's, never one B.
I was a high achiever.
Which is pretty absolutely amazing. And well, I shot our television, so she wasn't able to watch TV. And so she would read, she'd read 7, 8 books a week. She was always reading. And of course, we fed her good food too. So have your kids read and feed them good food. Don't feed them junk. And there's a good chance you'll get a Callie.
Yeah. Or they'll go over to their best friend Andrea's house and have peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwiches with chocolate chips on them, because I can't have them at my house.
That's fine.
Let's be clear, right?
You can have a little fun too, but basically what you have in your refrigerator is important. Yeah, Kate and I've been eating organic foods for all these years too. We didn't touch it. I do 30-day juice fast, so I can be 74 and still play basketball. You got to watch what you eat. It's important. What do you put in your body?
And we got to get you out of here. You have to leave in 2 minutes to go play basketball. Okay, so real quick, if somebody does want a copy of your book, The Upward Path, how can they grab a copy of your book?
It's on Amazon.
All right, so Amazon, I'll put the link in the show notes. And Dad, is your birthday, so I have a little gift for you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but it's a pretend gift. So it's
that's the best kind.
It's when you are on your deathbed, you'll receive total consciousness.
I've got that going for me.
Which is nice. All right, Caddyshack reference. Dad, I have the gift of a bonus hour. So you can do with it whatever you want, which you kind of already do. Let's be clear. You kind of, find your bonus hours. But if it was an extra bonus hour, because I ask all of our guests this, what would you do with your bonus hour?
I'm afraid to say I wish I could come up with something that would be amazing and this and that, but I just go play golf.
Yeah, I feel like you would say that. Golf. Well, Maddie showed all of us up on that when I interviewed her on her 14th birthday. 14th birthday. She said that she would have a conversation with God. And then I just kind of sat there and I thought, well, there you go. from her mouth, right? But yeah, go play golf, go play basketball now, Dad. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. What
Thanks
a
for having
fun
me.
gift for me and for our audience. And you guys
Let me
can
give you a
go,
kiss.
oh, aw,
It's my
thanks.
little girl.
You guys can go grab a copy of his book too. And what a pleasure. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
God
Bye.
bless. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.